Taman Kang stared out the shuttle window as the crystal cities of Velthara came into view. The floating structures caught the light of 3 suns, creating rainbows that danced across the purple sky. He had been a diplomatic courier for Earth's Galactic Relations Division for 2 years now, but alien worlds still took his breath away. This was supposed to be a simple job. Deliver a gift from Earth to the Valerian Emperor, sign some papers, go home. Easy money and another stamp in his galactic passport. Taman adjusted his formal uniform and checked the sealed package one more time. Inside was a carefully preserved oak tree sapling, a symbol of Earth's friendship. The shuttle landed smoothly on a crystal platform. As Taman stepped out, 2 tall guards approached him. Their skin was blue and seemed to glow slightly. They wore armor that looked more like art than protection. One guard scanned his diplomatic badge. The device beeped green. The guard nodded and gestured forward. Taman followed, clutching the package carefully. The palace was enormous, with walls that seemed to be made of living light. Everywhere he looked, there were Valerians in beautiful clothes, moving with purpose. A young palace worker handed him a datapad with directions. Taman looked at the Valerian symbols, then pressed the translation button. The device hummed and displayed a route in English. He started walking, following the glowing arrows that appeared in his vision through his contact lenses. Left turn, right turn, up a ramp, through an archway. Taman walked for what felt like hours through the massive palace. Strange music filled the air. He passed groups of aliens he had never seen before, species with too many eyes or too few limbs. They all seemed to be heading in the same direction. The crowd grew thicker. Taman frowned. This seemed odd for a simple gift delivery, but the arrows kept leading him forward, so he followed. The guards at various checkpoints saw his diplomatic badge and let him pass without question. Finally, he reached a massive set of doors. They were at least 30 feet tall, covered in glowing symbols. 2 guards stood at attention. They looked at his badge, then at each other. One of them shrugged and opened the doors. Taman walked through and froze. He was standing at the entrance to an enormous hall filled with thousands of beings. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above, but thousands of floating lights created an artificial sky. At the center of the hall, on a raised platform, stood 2 figures. One was a Valerian woman in a dress that seemed to be made of starlight. Her silver hair floated around her head as if underwater. Her skin shifted colors from blue to purple to pink. She was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Next to her stood a male Valerian in military dress. He was tall and broad, his skin a deep navy blue. His face was stern, proud. Between them, a priest in white robes was chanting something in the Valerian language. Taman's brain finally caught up with what he was seeing. This was not a throne room. This was a wedding. He had crashed a wedding. The translation error in his directions had led him to the wrong place entirely. Panic flooded through him. He started backing up slowly, trying not to draw attention, but his foot caught on the edge of a decorative carpet. He stumbled, arms windmilling as he tried to keep his balance. The package flew from his hands. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion. Taman fell forward, crashing through a barrier of what looked like ribbons of light surrounding the platform. He landed hard on the crystal floor, sliding several feet until he stopped right at the feet of the bride. The chanting stopped. The music stopped. Every single being in the hall turned to stare at him. Taman looked up from the floor into the violet eyes of the Valerian woman. Her expression was a mixture of shock and something else. Confusion, anger? He could not tell. Then the real chaos began. The light ribbons around the platform started flashing red. Symbols appeared in the air above the altar, glowing bright enough to hurt his eyes. The priest dropped his ceremonial staff with a clatter that echoed through the silent hall. The groom roared something in Valerian. His skin turned a deep, angry red. Guards rushed toward Taman from all directions. He scrambled to his feet, holding up his hands. "I'm so sorry," he said quickly. "Wrong room. Translation error. I will leave right now." But the priest was staring at the symbols floating in the air. He said something that made every Valerian in the room gasp. The guard stopped just short of grabbing Taman. The groom's face went from red to white. The bride spoke for the first time. Her voice was musical but firm. "What does it say, High Priest?" The priest's hands shook as he pointed at the glowing symbols. "The ancient protocol has been invoked, Your Highness. The outsider has broken the bonding barrier before the ritual was complete. By law, the marriage contract is void. The outsider has the right of substitution." Taman's translator struggled to keep up with the flood of Valerian voices that erupted. Everyone seemed to be talking at once. He caught words like unprecedented and impossible and scandal. "This is absurd," the groom shouted. "He is not even Valerian." "The law does not apply to aliens." The priest shook his head. "The law says outsider, not Valerian. It has stood for 8,000 years. It cannot be broken." A commotion at the entrance made everyone turn. A human woman in a formal diplomatic uniform pushed through the crowd. Taman recognized her immediately. Ambassador Hana Cho, Earth's senior representative to the Valerian Empire. She looked at Taman, at the broken barrier, at the glowing symbols. Her face went pale. "What have you done?" she whispered to him. "I got lost," Taman said helplessly. "The directions were wrong. I did not mean to crash the wedding." Ambassador Cho took a deep breath and turned to the crowd. She bowed deeply to the bride. "Your Highness, I apologize on behalf of Earth for this disruption. My courier made an honest mistake." The bride studied them both. Up close, Taman could see her skin shifting through a rainbow of colors. He wondered if that meant something in Valerian culture. Finally she spoke. "I am Princess Arya of House Velthir, third in line to the throne, and you have just destroyed my wedding." Her voice was cold, controlled. "Honest mistake or not, the ancient protocol has been invoked. The law is clear." "There must be something we can do," Ambassador Cho said. "Some way to fix this." "Only one way," a deep voice said. Everyone turned to see an ancient Valerian stepping onto the platform. He wore robes of pure gold and carried a staff of light. Even Taman, who knew nothing about Valerian culture, could tell this was someone important. "I am Emperor Chiron Velthir, and I will hear this matter in my throne room. Immediately." Guards surrounded Taman, but not roughly. They escorted him out of the hall, with Ambassador Cho walking beside him. Princess Arya followed, her starlight dress trailing behind her. The former groom stormed out a different exit, his face twisted with rage. As they walked through the palace corridors, Ambassador Cho leaned close to Taman. "Do you know who Princess Arya was supposed to marry?" Taman shook his head. "Lord Commander Draven of House Corthan, one of the most powerful military leaders in the Empire. You just made a very dangerous enemy." "I did not mean to," Taman protested. "This is all a huge mistake." "Mistakes have consequences," Ambassador Cho said. "Especially in galactic politics. Let me do the talking in the throne room. Do not say anything unless the Emperor asks you directly." The throne room was smaller than the wedding hall, but far more impressive. The walls seemed to be made of solid crystal, showing scenes from Valerian history. The Emperor sat on a throne that floated several feet off the ground, surrounded by a halo of soft light. Princess Arya stood to one side, her face carefully blank. A young Valerian woman stood next to her, watching Taman with suspicious eyes. Several nobles and officials filled the room, whispering to each other. Ambassador Cho explained what happened, taking full responsibility for the navigation error. She offered formal apologies and suggested various compensations. The Emperor listened in silence, his ancient eyes studying Taman. Finally, he raised one hand. Ambassador Cho fell silent. The Emperor spoke, and his voice seemed to fill the entire room without being loud. "The ancient protocol is sacred law. It has stood since the founding of our empire. To ignore it would dishonor 8,000 years of tradition and law. However, I am not unreasonable. The human courier did not invoke the protocol intentionally." Hope flickered in Taman's chest. Maybe he could just apologize and leave. The Emperor continued. "According to the protocol, the outsider who breaks the bonding barrier has the right to court the bride. If the bride accepts, a betrothal may proceed. If the bride rejects, the outsider must leave and never return. Your Majesty," Princess Arya said, "I have no wish to be courted by this human. He ruined my wedding through his carelessness." "Understandable," the Emperor said. "However, there is another consideration. The protocol states that the outsider must prove their worth through the traditional courtship trials. These trials would demonstrate whether the human is capable of understanding our ways and earning a place in our society. Given humanity's recent entry into galactic affairs, this could be valuable." Taman saw where this was going. His heart sank. The diplomatic wing of the palace was less impressive than the main halls, but still far nicer than anything Taman had ever lived in. His room had walls that changed color based on his mood, a bed that adjusted to his body temperature, and a window overlooking one of the floating gardens. It should have been amazing. Instead, it felt like a very pretty prison. Dr. Jihoon Park arrived the next morning with 3 heavy bags and an excited smile. The xenoanthropologist was a thin man in his 30s with glasses that kept sliding down his nose. He dumped the bags on the floor and shook Taemin's hand enthusiastically. "This is incredible," Dr. Park said. "Do you know how rare this is? A human participating in traditional Valerian courtship rituals? This could change everything we know about cross-species compatibility." "I am glad you are excited," Taemin said dryly. "I am terrified." Dr. Park pulled out his first book. "Let me start with the basics. Valerian skin changes color based on emotion. Blue usually means calm or sad. Red is anger. Pink is happiness or affection. Purple is respect. When you see multiple colors shifting, that means complex emotions." Taemin thought about Princess Arya's shifting colors at the wedding. What about rainbow patterns? That is usually shock or overwhelming emotion. It means they cannot process what they are feeling. Dr. Park opened the book to a chart. "Now, social hierarchy is very important. You must bow at exactly the right angle to show proper respect. Too shallow is an insult. Too deep makes you look weak." The week passed in a blur of lessons. Taemin learned about Valerian history, politics, food customs, greeting rituals, and about 100 other things that made his head hurt. He practiced bowing until his back ached. He memorized the names of the major noble houses and their complicated relationships. On the 3rd day, a palace servant delivered a formal invitation. Taemin was required to have dinner with Princess Arya as part of the courtship protocol. The dinner would take place in 2 days. "This is your chance to make a good impression," Dr. Park said. "Show her you are trying to understand her culture." "What if I use the wrong fork or bow at the wrong angle?" Taemin asked. "Then you will embarrass yourself. But honestly, she probably expects you to make mistakes. Just be genuine. That matters more than perfect etiquette." The dinner took place in a private dining room with walls of clear crystal. Taemin arrived exactly on time, wearing his best formal clothes. Princess Arya was already there, sitting at a low table. She wore a simple gown of deep blue that matched her current skin color. Her expression was carefully neutral. Taemin bowed at what he hoped was the right angle. "Your Highness, thank you for agreeing to this dinner." "I did not agree," she said coldly. "It is required by protocol. Please sit." He sat across from her. Servants brought food on floating trays. Taemin recognized nothing on his plate. Everything was the wrong color or the wrong texture. One item seemed to be moving slightly. Princess Arya picked up a thin instrument that looked like a cross between chopsticks and a fork. She began eating with perfect grace. Taemin copied her movements as best he could. He managed to get food to his mouth without dropping it, which felt like a victory. "Tell me about Earth," Princess Arya said suddenly. "Your world is very new to galactic society. Only 50 years since first contact, correct?" "Yes, Your Highness. We are still learning how everything works out here. And yet your species already presumes to participate in our most sacred rituals." Her skin flickered red for a moment. "Do humans always rush into situations they do not understand?" Taemin put down his eating utensil. "Your Highness, I know you are angry." "You have every right to be. I ruined your wedding. But I did not do it on purpose. I am just a courier who followed bad directions. I never wanted any of this. And I never wanted to be betrothed to a human who does not even know how to hold eating utensils correctly." She shot back. "But here we are. I am holding them wrong?" Taemin looked at his hand. For the first time, Princess Arya's expression shifted. One corner of her mouth twitched. "Yes, you have been holding them backwards this entire time." Taemin stared at his food. Then he started to laugh. He could not help it. The whole situation was so absurd. Here he was, trying to court an alien princess, and he could not even eat properly. The laugh started small but grew until his shoulders shook. Princess Arya watched him. Her skin shifted from blue to a lighter shade, almost turquoise. "What is funny?" "Everything," Taemin said, wiping his eyes. "A week ago I was delivering packages. Now I'm failing to eat dinner with a princess. I have no idea what I am doing. I probably should not admit that, but it is the truth." She studied him for a long moment. "At least you are honest about your inadequacy." "That is something, I guess." Taemin picked up the utensils again, this time holding them the way she did. "Can I ask you something, Your Highness?" "You may ask." "I may not answer. Did you want to marry Lord Commander Draven?" Her skin flickered through several colors. "That is an improper question. I know. But if I am going to go through these trials, I would like to know if I am fighting for something you actually wanted. Princess Arya set down her utensils. Draven is a good military commander. Our houses would have been politically aligned. It was a logical match. That is not what I asked. What I want is irrelevant. I am third in line for the throne. My duty is to serve my people through strategic alliances. On Earth, we believe people should have some choice in who they marry, Taman said carefully. Even people with responsibilities. How chaotic, Princess Arya said, but her skin had shifted to pink just for a second. Your world must be very strange. It is. But it is home. Taman managed to get another bite of food to his mouth successfully. Tell me about Velthara. What is it like growing up in a floating crystal city? She hesitated. Then slowly she began to talk. She told him about flying lessons as a child, about learning to navigate between the floating platforms. She described the bioluminescent forests that grew in the valleys below the cities, and how they sang at night. Her voice softened as she spoke, and her colors shifted to warmer tones. Taman listened, genuinely interested. In return, he told her about Earth's oceans and mountains. He described seasons changing, something Velthara's 3 sons prevented. He explained snow to someone who had never seen ice fall from the sky. By the time dessert arrived, they were actually having a conversation instead of an interrogation. Princess Arya still maintained her formal posture, but her skin stayed in the warmer colors. She even almost smiled once or twice. As the dinner ended, she stood. Taman stood as well, bowing properly this time. The first trial is tomorrow, she said. You should rest. Thank you for dinner, Your Highness. And for the conversation? She paused at the door. You held the utensils correctly for the last course. You learned quickly. Then she was gone, leaving only a faint glow in the air where she had stood. The next morning, Taman woke to find Ambassador Cho and Dr. Park in his sitting room. They both looked serious. The first trial has been announced, Ambassador Cho said. It is called the Trial of Understanding. You will mediate a dispute between 3 noble houses. They have been feuding for months over resource rights in a mining territory. I am not a lawyer, Taman protested. I do not know Valerian law. That is not what they are testing, Dr. Park said. They want to see if you can understand their cultural values and find a solution that respects those values. It is about cultural intelligence, not legal knowledge. What if I fail? Ambassador Cho looked grim. Then you leave Velthara, and Earth loses a significant opportunity to strengthen ties with the Empire. No pressure. The trial took place in the council chamber, a circular room with tiers of seats rising toward the ceiling. Hundreds of nobles filled the seats, all watching as Taman entered. At the center of the room was a round platform with 4 chairs. 3 were already occupied by the feuding house representatives. Taman sat in the 4th chair. His heart pounded. Princess Arya sat in the front row, her expression unreadable. The Emperor watched from a private box above. Even Lord Commander Draven was there, his face dark with barely controlled anger. The 3 house representatives began speaking, each presenting their case. Their claims contradicted each other completely. House Corrin claimed historical rights to the territory. House Telmar insisted they had developed the mining technology. House Velnus argued they had the most workers who depended on the mines for survival. Taman listened carefully, making notes. Dr. Park had taught him about Valerian values, honor, history, duty to family, respect for tradition. He needed to find a solution that acknowledged all of these. But as the arguments continued, he realized something. The representatives were not trying to find a solution. They were performing for the audience. Each one cared more about appearing strong than actually resolving the dispute. A traditional Valerian mediator would try to find middle ground, giving each house part of what they wanted. But Taman could see that would not work. The positions were too far apart. Someone had made sure of that. He glanced at Lord Commander Draven and saw the faint smile on his face. This trial had been sabotaged. Taman stood up. The chamber fell silent. He took a deep breath and did something humans were good at. He changed the rules. After the first trial, something changed. Palace servants bowed when Taman passed them in the corridors. Nobles who had ignored him now nodded in greeting. Even Dr. Park seemed more excited than usual, talking rapidly about cultural breakthrough moments and unprecedented diplomatic opportunities. But Taman barely heard him. He kept thinking about Princess Arya's smile. It had been small and quickly hidden, but it haunted him. He wanted to see it again. 3 days after the trial, a message arrived. Princess Arya requested his presence in the palace gardens that evening. The message was formal and brief, but it was still an invitation. She did not have to invite him. The protocol did not require private meetings between trials. The gardens were even more beautiful at night. The bioluminescent plants glowed in dozens of colors, creating natural lanterns along the winding paths. Floating platforms held different species of flowers, each one more alien and stunning than the last. The air smelled sweet and strange. Taman found Princess Arya standing beside a fountain that flowed upward instead of down. She wore a simple dress without the elaborate decorations of her formal wear. Her skin was a calm blue-green, peaceful colors. "Your Highness," he said, bowing. "You performed well in the first trial," she said without turning. "Better than expected. Thank you. I had good teachers. Dr. Park tells me you studied for 16 hours a day that first week." She finally looked at him. "Why work so hard? You could simply fail the trials and return to Earth. No shame in that." Taman moved to stand beside her, watching the impossible fountain. "At first I studied because I had to, because it was my duty to try. But then I started actually learning about your culture, your history, your values. It is beautiful in its own way. Different from Earth, but not less." Her color shifted to pink just briefly. "Most humans I have met think our traditions are rigid and outdated. Some of them probably are," Taman said honestly. "Just like some Earth traditions are outdated. But traditions exist for reasons. They connect people to their past and give them stability. I can respect that even if I do not always agree with specific rules." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Princess Arya spoke again. "The second trial has been announced. It begins in 3 days. What is it?" "The trial of strength. You will be sent into the Twilight Wastes, a wilderness region south of the capital. You must survive for 3 days and retrieve a crystal from deep within the cave systems." Her skin flickered to worried blue. "Taman, this trial is dangerous. Candidates have died attempting it." The way she said his name without his title or formal address made his heart beat faster. "I will be careful. Careful may not be enough. The wastes are hostile. Sharp rocks, poisonous plants, temperature extremes, and predators. You are not Valerian. You are not built for that environment." "Then I will have to be smart instead of strong," he said. "Humans are good at adapting to difficult environments. It is kind of our specialty." She turned to face him fully. In the garden's glow, her violet eyes seemed to shine. "Why are you really doing this?" The truth this time, Taman met her gaze. "At first because I had to, now because I want to know you better. Because when you smiled after the trial, I wanted to see that smile again." Her skin shifted through multiple colors. The rainbow pattern he had learned meant complex emotions. "You should not say such things." "Probably not," he agreed. "But I am tired of only saying what I am supposed to say." For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Princess Arya's aide, Sarah, appeared from behind a flowering bush. The young Valerian woman looked worried. "Your Highness, you should return to your quarters. The hour grows late." Princess Arya nodded slowly. "Yes, of course." She started to walk away, then paused. "Taman, return safely from the wastes." "That is an order," he smiled. "Yes, Your Highness." That night Taman could not sleep. He kept thinking about the coming trial and about Princess Arya's worried expression. Around midnight he heard a noise outside his door. Before he could react, something crashed through his window. 3 figures in dark clothes moved fast. Assassins. Taman rolled off his bed just as a blade sliced through where his head had been. He grabbed a chair and threw it at the nearest attacker, then ran for the door. The door burst open. Princess Arya stood there, dressed in light armor, holding 2 curved blades. Her skin was combat red, eyes blazing. She moved like water and lightning combined, her blades flashing. 2 assassins went down in seconds. The 3rd assassin lunged at Taman. He dodged badly, feeling the blade cut his arm. Then Dr. Park appeared from the next room and hit the assassin with a heavy book. It was not elegant, but it worked. The assassin stumbled, and Princess Arya's blade finished the fight. Palace guards arrived moments later, taking the surviving assassins into custody. Princess Arya lowered her blades, her skin slowly fading from red to worried blue. She grabbed Taman's injured arm, examining the cut. "It is not deep," she said, "but it needs treatment." She looked at the guards. "Find out who sent them. I want answers by morning." "What were you doing here?" Taman asked as a medic wrapped his arm. Her colors shifted to embarrassed pink. I could not sleep. I was walking the corridors and heard the glass break. Fortunate timing. Sarah appeared, slightly out of breath. Your Highness, you should not have engaged them alone. I was not alone. Taman fought as well. Princess Arya gave him a small smile. Poorly but bravely. Despite the pain in his arm and the shock of nearly dying, Taman laughed. I will take that as a compliment. The investigation concluded that the assassins were radical isolationists opposed to human-Valerian relations. But Taman noticed how Lord Commander Draven was conveniently absent from the palace that night. Princess Arya noticed too. He saw it in the way her jaw tightened when the official report was read. 3 days later, Taman stood at the edge of the Twilight Wastes. The landscape looked like something from a nightmare. Sharp crystal formations jutted from the ground at odd angles. The plants had thorns the size of his hand. The sky above was dark purple and the air felt wrong somehow. Too thin and too thick at the same time. A Valerian official gave him supplies. A water container, some concentrated food, basic tools, and an emergency beacon. If you activate the beacon, you fail the trial but will be rescued. The choice is yours. Taman nodded and started walking into the wastes. Behind him, Princess Arya watched from a viewing platform. He could feel her eyes on his back until the crystal formations blocked his view. The first day was brutal. The ground cut through his boots. The temperature swung from freezing cold to burning hot with no warning. He had to move carefully, testing each step. By nightfall, his body ached everywhere. He found a small cave and made camp, rationing his food and water carefully. On the second day, he heard it. A low, pained sound coming from behind a fallen crystal pillar. Taman knew he should keep moving toward his goal. Every minute counted. But the sound pulled at him. Something was hurt. He found the creature pinned under heavy rocks. It was large, maybe the size of a horse, with luminous blue skin and 6 legs. Its eyes were intelligent, watching him warily. Blood seeped from where the rocks crushed its middle legs. Taman looked at the creature, then at the path ahead. He had limited time. Helping would cost him hours he could not afford. The smart choice was to walk away. That was what the trial wanted. Focus on the goal. Prove your strength by overcoming obstacles. But Taman had never been good at making the smart choice when something was suffering. He set down his pack and started working on moving the rocks. It took 4 hours. His hands bled. His muscles screamed. But finally, the last rock shifted and the creature pulled itself free. It stood on its remaining good legs, studying him. Taman backed away slowly, not wanting to seem threatening. The creature made a low sound, almost like a purr. Then it turned and limped away into the crystal forest. Taman continued his journey, now behind schedule. He would have to push hard to reach the caves before time ran out. As the third day began, exhaustion made every step a challenge. He was lost, injured, and running out of water. Then the creature appeared again. It stood on a ridge above him, watching. When it saw him looking, it turned and walked in a specific direction. Taman hesitated, then followed. The creature led him through a hidden path between the crystal formations, one that did not appear on any map. The path ended at the cave entrance. Taman looked back at the creature. "Thank you," he said, not knowing if it could understand. The creature made that purring sound again, then disappeared into the wastes. Inside the cave, Taman found what he was looking for. A crystal the size of his fist glowing with internal light, but next to it was something else. A nest with 3 smaller crystals. He realized with a shock what he was looking at. These were not rocks. They were eggs. The trial crystal was an egg from the species he had rescued. The traditional trial required taking an egg to prove his strength. But taking it meant destroying a future life. Taman thought about the injured creature, about how it had helped him despite having no reason to. He could not take the egg. He would not. Instead, he looked around the cave. The walls were covered in crystal formations. He used his tools to carefully break off several large fragments. After the second trial, Princess Arya came to visit Taman in the medical wing. He was recovering from 3 days in the wastes, covered in bandages and bruises. She dismissed the attendants and sat in the chair beside his bed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You almost died out there," she said finally. Her skin was pale blue, worried, but I did not. Taman tried to sit up straighter and winced. "Thanks partly to a creature that remembered kindness. You could have taken the egg." You would have completed the trial faster, safer. Why did you refuse? Because it was wrong, he said simply. The creature trusted me. Taking its child would have been a betrayal. Princess Arya's colors shifted to warm pink. Most candidates do not think that way. They see the trial as an obstacle to overcome, nothing more. Then maybe the trial needs better candidates. Taman smiled. Or maybe humans just think differently. She reached out and took his hand. Her 4 fingers were cool against his skin. Taman, there is one more trial. The hardest one, I know. The trial of hearts. It is not a physical challenge. It is a mental one. We will be connected through neural linking technology. Our minds will share thoughts, emotions, memories. Everything will be visible to each other. There will be no secrets, no hiding. Her grip tightened on his hand. It is the most intimate thing 2 Valerians can experience. Are you afraid? He asked. Her skin flickered through multiple colors. Yes, because I do not know what I will feel when I see inside your heart. And I will see inside yours, Taman said. That scares me too. But Arya, if we are going to do this, if there is any chance of this being real, we need that honesty. It was the first time he had used her name without the title. She did not correct him. Instead, she squeezed his hand once more, then stood. The trial is in 3 days. Rest until then. You will need your strength. Over the next 3 days, Taman and Arya spent more time together. They walked in the gardens. They shared meals. They talked about everything and nothing. The palace staff began to notice. The nobles gossiped, but neither of them cared. Sarah watched them with knowing eyes. The princess has not smiled this much in years, she told Taman one afternoon. Whatever happens in the trial, know that you have already changed her life. Dr. Park was less romantic in his observations. The neural link will be intense. Human brains and Valerian brains are different. The connection might be painful or disorienting, but if it works, the data will be revolutionary. Always the scientist, Taman said with a smile. The night before the trial, Dr. Park went missing. Taman searched for him, growing increasingly worried. Finally, Sarah burst into his room, her skin flashing alarm red. Dr. Park found something. Evidence of tampering with the trial equipment. He was going to warn you, but Draven's people took him. Where is he? The lower levels. Come quickly. They found Dr. Park locked in a storage room, bruised but alive. He grabbed Taman's shoulders urgently. The trial equipment has been sabotaged. The neural link will overload. It could cause permanent brain damage to both of you. You have to stop the trial. If I stop it, I fail, Taman said. Earth loses the alliance opportunity. If you do not stop it, you might die, Dr. Park insisted. Or worse, damage Princess Arya's mind. Sarah's eyes widened. We need to tell the Emperor immediately. No time, Dr. Park said. The trial starts in an hour. I can try to fix the equipment, but I need access to the temple. They ran through the palace corridors. Guards tried to stop them, but Sarah's authority as the princess's aide got them through. They reached the Temple of Unity just as the ceremony was beginning. The temple was massive, with walls that seemed to be made of pure light. At the center stood 2 chairs connected by glowing cables. Taman could see Arya already seated in one, wearing white robes. The Emperor watched from a raised platform. Hundreds of nobles filled the seats. Taman walked to his chair. Dr. Park rushed to the technicians trying to explain the sabotage. They looked skeptical but began checking the equipment. Taman met Arya's eyes. She looked calm, but he could see the rainbow pattern on her skin. She was nervous. The high priest began the ceremony. Technicians attached neural connectors to both of their heads. Taman felt cold metal against his temples. The equipment hummed to life. Begin the link, the high priest declared. The world exploded into sensation. Taman felt Arya's consciousness rush into his mind like a wave. Her thoughts, her emotions, her memories, everything flowed between them. He saw her childhood, her training, her loneliness. He felt her fear of failing her people. He experienced her initial anger at him for ruining her wedding, and she saw him. His ordinary life on Earth, his dreams of exploration, his insecurity about never being good enough, his growing feelings for her that he had tried so hard to hide. The connection was beautiful and terrifying. Then the sabotage activated. Pain shot through both of their minds. The neural pathways began fragmenting. Taman felt his consciousness starting to break apart. In the physical world, alarms blared. Ambassador Cho jumped to her feet. Shut it down. The emergency disconnect is not responding, a technician shouted. Inside the link, Taman felt Arya's panic. The pain was overwhelming. The traditional response would be to separate their minds, to pull back and save themselves individually. But Taman knew that would just make it worse. The link was already too deep. Instead of pulling away, he pushed closer. He opened his mind completely to Arya, dropping every defense. He shared everything, every embarrassing memory, every fear, every hope, and he asked her silently to do the same. For a moment she hesitated. Then he felt her presence surge forward, matching his openness. They stopped being two separate minds and became something new. One consciousness with two perspectives. Human and Valerian thinking together. The sabotaged equipment could not handle what they were doing. It was designed to connect two Valerian minds with predictable patterns. But a human-Valerian bond was different, unpredictable. Their combined will pushed back against the malfunctioning technology. Outside, Dr. Park found the sabotage circuit and rerouted power. Inside, Taman and Arya worked together to stabilize the neural pathways. It took everything they had. The pain was incredible, but they held on to each other, consciousness to consciousness, refusing to let go. Finally, the equipment stabilized. The pain faded. Taman and Arya emerged from the link slowly, their minds separating but changed forever. They would always carry a piece of each other now. Taman opened his physical eyes. The temple was in chaos. Guards had arrested several technicians. Ambassador Cho was arguing with officials. But Taman only saw Arya. She was looking at him with tears running down her face, her skin shifting through every color at once. "I saw everything," she whispered. "Your whole heart." "And I saw yours," he said. "Arya, you are amazing. Strong and kind and so much more than duty." The investigation moved quickly. The technicians confessed under interrogation. They had been paid by Lord Commander Draven to sabotage the trial. Evidence was found in his quarters linking him to both the assassination attempt and this sabotage. Draven was arrested while trying to flee the planet. The Emperor stripped him of his rank and title. His house was disgraced. Justice was served. The next day, the court gathered again. The Emperor looked tired but satisfied. He studied Taman and Arya, who stood together, no longer needing to maintain formal distance. "The trial was sabotaged, but you both completed it anyway," the Emperor said. "You demonstrated something unprecedented. A human and Valerian consciousness joining completely. The bond you formed is deeper than any traditional marriage link." He paused. "Taman Kang, you have passed all 3 trials. You have earned the right to propose betrothal to Princess Arya." The crowd fell silent. Everyone knew what came next. Taman should kneel and make a formal proposal. Instead, he turned to the Emperor. "Your Majesty, with respect, I will not make that proposal today." Shocked murmurs spread through the chamber. Arya's eyes widened. "I passed the trials to prove I could," Taman continued, "to show that humans can understand and respect Valerian culture. But I will not ask Arya to marry me because a protocol says I should. She deserves better than that." He turned to face her. "The trials are done. The protocol is satisfied. Now you have a choice, a real choice. Not between me and Draven. Not between duty and desire. A choice about what you want for yourself. If you want to explore what we might be together, I will stay. If you want me to leave, I will go. But either way, it will be your decision, not tradition's." Arya stared at him. Her skin cycled through every color. Emotions too complex to name. The entire court held its breath. Then the Emperor laughed. It was a deep, genuine sound that filled the chamber. "Well done, Taman Kang, you continue to surprise me." "Very well. Princess Arya, the choice is yours. What do you want?" Arya looked at her father, then at the assembled court, then at Taman. She took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was steady and clear. "I want what I have never had before. I want to choose for myself." She stepped forward and took Taman's hands. "And I choose you. Not because of protocol or tradition, but because when our minds were joined, I saw your heart and it was beautiful. Because you make me laugh." News of the betrothal spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed travel. Within hours, every major news network was covering the story. A human and a Valerian princess, the youngest species in the Galactic Council and one of the oldest civilizations. It was unprecedented. Taman's parents called from Earth. His mother cried happy tears while his father kept asking if he was absolutely sure about this. His younger sister just screamed with excitement until his mother made her stop. They were already making plans to travel to Velthara for the wedding. "Your father is worried about the food," his mother said on the video call. "He thinks everything will be too strange." "The food is strange," Taman admitted. "But you get used to it. And Mom, she is amazing. You will love her." His mother smiled through her tears. "If you love her, then we will love her too." The political implications were enormous. Ambassador Cho spent her days in meetings with Earth's government officials and galactic representatives. The marriage meant new trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and military alliances. It shifted the balance of power in ways that would take years to fully understand, but Taman tried not to think about all that. He had more immediate concerns, like learning proper Valerian wedding etiquette, like meeting more of Arya's family, like trying not to panic about becoming a prince. "You are doing it again," Arya said one morning as they walked through the gardens. They had started taking morning walks together, one of the few times they could be alone without attendants or advisors. "Doing what?" "That thing where you stare into space and worry about everything." She took his hand. "Talk to me. What if I am terrible at being a prince? What if I embarrass you at formal events? What if I can never really understand Valerian politics?" The words tumbled out. "Arya, I was a delivery guy, a nobody, and now I am supposed to be worthy of you, of this position." She stopped walking and turned to face him. Her skin was warm pink with streaks of purple. "Do you know what I saw when we were linked? When I saw all of your memories and thoughts? My inadequacy? No. I saw someone who helps injured creatures even when it costs him. Someone who refuses to steal eggs because it is wrong. Someone who gives people real choices instead of forcing them into tradition." She cupped his face with her four-fingered hands. "You were never nobody, Taman. You just had not found where you belonged yet." He kissed her then, right there in the garden. It was not the first kiss, but it still felt new and strange and wonderful. Kissing someone whose skin changed color with emotion took some getting used to. When they pulled apart, she was glowing bright pink, almost luminous. "We should probably work on the wedding plans," she said, but she was smiling. "Probably," he agreed. "But maybe 5 more minutes here first." Planning the wedding was harder than the trials. Every detail had political implications. Which guests to invite, where to seat them, what food to serve, what music to play, what traditions to include and which to modify. Arya wanted to honor both human and Valerian customs, but finding the balance was exhausting. Dr. Park helped tremendously, acting as a cultural bridge. He worked with Valerian priests to create hybrid ceremonies that respected both traditions. Some nobles complained it was too radical. Some Earth officials worried it was too alien. But the Emperor approved, and that was what mattered. Sarah became Taman's unexpected ally. The aide who had once looked at him with suspicion now helped him navigate palace politics. She taught him which nobles to cultivate and which to avoid. She warned him about political traps disguised as friendly conversations. "Why are you helping me?" Taman asked her one day. "Because the princess is happy," Sarah said simply. "I have served her for 10 years. I have never seen her smile the way she smiles with you. That is worth protecting." 1 week before the wedding, a crisis emerged. A group claiming to be cultural purists released a statement condemning the marriage. They called it a betrayal of Valerian traditions. Some of them were nobles from houses that had supported Lord Commander Draven. They demanded the Emperor cancel the wedding. Evidence emerged that these same nobles had been communicating with other species who opposed human expansion in the galaxy. It was not just about tradition. It was about politics and power. They saw Earth as a threat, and this marriage as a symbol of that threat. "They want to stop the wedding," Ambassador Cho explained in an emergency meeting. "They are planning some kind of disruption." "Let them try," the Emperor said calmly. "I have Imperial guards. They have complaints." But 2 days before the ceremony, the conspirators made their move. They released fabricated evidence suggesting Taman had been spying on Valeria for Earth's military. The documents looked official. They showed meetings that never happened and reports Taman supposedly sent. It was all lies, but convincing lies. The scandal exploded across news networks. Some people believed it immediately. Others demanded investigations. The wedding was thrown into chaos. Even some members of the Emperor's own council suggested postponing until the allegations could be proven false. Taman sat in his quarters, watching his reputation destroyed in real time. Ambassador Cho and Dr. Park were working to expose the fabrications, but it would take time. Time they did not have, then Arya walked in. She was not wearing formal robes. She wore simple clothes, and her skin was determined purple. She had Sarah with her, and both of them carried data pads. "We found them," Arya said. "The conspirators." Sarah traced the fabricated documents back to 3 noble houses. "We have proof they created the false evidence." Sarah pulled up files on her datapad. They were sloppy. "The digital signatures do not match. The timestamps are wrong. Anyone with forensic software can see these documents are fake." "Why did you do this?" Taman asked. "You could have let the investigation run its course." "Because I know you," Arya said fiercely. "Not just from the trials. I know your heart, Taman. I saw it when we were linked. You are not a spy. You are not a liar. And I will not let anyone say otherwise." The evidence Arya and Sarah gathered was presented to the Emperor that evening. The conspirators were arrested within hours. They confessed when faced with undeniable proof of their fabrication. The scandal collapsed as quickly as it had erupted. The Emperor addressed the planet in a broadcast. These conspirators sought to destroy a union built on courage and genuine feeling. They failed. The wedding will proceed as planned. And let it be known that Princess Arya and Taman Kang have my full support and blessing. The day of the wedding arrived. The Grand Crystal Palace was decorated with flowers from both Earth and Velthara. Human music mixed with Valerian harmonics. The guest list included everyone from simple courier workers like Taman, used to be to leaders of galactic powers. Taman's family arrived 3 hours before the ceremony. His mother gasped at the floating cities. His father stared at the alien species walking past. His sister immediately made friends with a Valerian child, somehow communicating despite speaking different languages. When they met Arya, there was an awkward moment. She towered over Taman's mother. Her skin shifted colors with nervousness. But then his mother smiled and took Arya's hands. "Thank you," his mother said simply, "for making my son happy." Arya's color shifted to warm pink. "He makes me happy too." The ceremony took place in the same hall where Taman had accidentally crashed the first wedding. But this time, he walked in through the proper entrance wearing formal robes that combined Valerian and Earth styles. This time he was invited. Arya entered from the opposite side wearing a dress that shifted colors like her skin. She was escorted by the Emperor himself. When she reached the altar and took Taman's hands, the entire hall fell silent. The ceremony was beautiful. The High Priest performed the traditional Valerian bonding ritual, the same one that had been interrupted months ago. But this time there were also human elements. Vows spoken in both languages, rings exchanged, a human custom that fascinated the Valerian guests. When it came time for Taman to speak his vows, he looked into Arya's violet eyes and spoke from his heart. "I came to this planet by accident. I crashed your wedding through a stupid mistake. But loving you is no accident. It is the most intentional thing I have ever done. You have taught me that home is not a place. It is wherever you are. I promise to honor your culture while sharing mine. To stand beside you, not behind or in front. To choose you every day just as you chose me. I love you, Arya. In every language, in every galaxy." Her skin glowed so bright with pink and gold that she looked like a living star. Tears ran down her face as she spoke her vows. "You crashed into my life and changed everything. You showed me that traditions can evolve without losing their meaning. That duty and happiness do not have to be enemies. That someone from a completely different world can understand my heart better than those I have known all my life. I promise to teach you our ways and learn yours. To rule beside you as equals. To laugh with you in the gardens and face challenges together. I love you, Taman Kang. My accidental prince, my chosen partner." The High Priest declared them bonded. The hall erupted in celebration. Human applause mixed with Valerian light displays. Species from across the galaxy celebrated together. A preview of the cooperation this marriage promised.